Agreement on how to conduct diplomacy applied also to who should practice it. In the 1970s, the United States, Australia, and some other industrialized democracies, as well as South Africa, broadened recruitment beyond the old elites and emphasized the development of foreign services, representatives of their population's ethnic diversity. Others, such as Brazil, France, India, and Japan, continued to recruit consciously elite services. China and the Soviet Union continued to emphasize political criteria as well as intellectual skills. Overall, however, embassy positions from the ambassadorial level down increasingly were filled by professional diplomats. Only the United States and a handful of other countries continued the practice of appointing wealthy amateurs as ambassadors, treating the most senior diplomatic positions as political spoils to be conferred on financial contributors for each election. While the role of women had been very much important when we talk about diplomacy and women, famous female political leaders such as Cleopatra VII, Isabella I, Elizabeth I were enormously influential in the history of diplomatic relations, but historically women largely played a secondary but substantial role as the wives of diplomats. Without large fortunes or many servants, diplomatic wives were forced to shoulder great burdens as they coped with the nomadic lifestyle, housewifery, hectic social schedules, and endless cooking for obligatory entertaining. The practice of paying diplomatic wives a salary to compensate them for the time they spent entertaining. In 1972, the United States stopped evaluating wives in rating their spouses. Diplomatic wives also increasingly wished to pursue their own careers. Some of these were potable, if not, efforts were made with the host countries to permit employment. In 1923, Soviet Union became the first country to name a woman as a head of a diplomatic mission. The United States, which began admitting women into a newly established American career service in 1925, followed a decade later by appointing a woman as minister to Denmark. France permitted a woman to enter its diplomatic service by examination in 1930, though at the time it still did not appoint women as heads of missions. After World War II, increasing number of women were making a career of diplomacy and more women became ambassadors, both by the political appointment and by a career progression. Despite these changes, some countries, particularly in the developing world, continued not to hire women as their diplomats, sending women envoys them as deemed unwise.